Hey everybody, it's Eric, your friendly sports nut, and this is Sports Nut News. On today's show, I'd like to talk to you guys about a little bit of everything. Let's start it off with Major League Baseball. So, Major League Baseball is back. They're about 6 games in for most teams. Now, the big story with Major League Baseball right now is the Miami Marlins. The Miami Marlins have 18 positive cases of COVID-19 on their team, which means that their season has basically been shut down for at least the rest of this week. They're hoping to be able to get back to somewhat normal. We'll see what happens after that, though. But this has caused a bit of a ripple effect, like with the Philadelphia Phillies, who just played the Marlins before all these cases became positive, and teams that were supposed to play the Phillies, teams that were supposed to play the Marlins this week, a lot of these games had to be postponed or rescheduled. So this has kind of caused a bit of a damper in regards to the scheduling and in regards to the positivity around Major League Baseball being back. Now, the big thing with Major League Baseball that I don't agree with is the fact that they are back and they are choosing to play in each other's stadiums, moving from city to city to city and playing like that. I mean, obviously, the bubble system in the NHL, NBA, MLS, stuff like that would have been a better option. But apparently that wasn't really an option, especially considering where they could do the bubble would be in states like Florida and Arizona and Texas and, say, California, where the cases are through the roof of coronavirus. So that's a huge downside for the Major League Baseball this year. But, I mean, the Jays are back. I'm happy to be watching the Blue Jays games now. They're 3-3. Personally, they should have won all 3 games down in Tampa Bay. They went 1-2. Unfortunately, they blew a couple leads. And then they won both games against Washington in Washington. And then they just lost a game at home to Washington in Washington tonight. So, I mean, they're 3-3, but they were really in all these games until late. So, I mean, it could have been, they could be 6-0 or they could be 5-1. But anyways, what it is baseball's back. That's a huge advantage for a lot of people. A lot of people love to watch baseball, especially in the summertime. Unfortunately, yes, we can't get to any games, but it is what it is, right? So next up, we have MLS. So as people know from previous videos, the MLS is Back tournament has been taking place down in Orlando at the ESPN's Wide World of Sports complex. Now, they did the bubble system. It was shaky to start with 2 teams, FC Dallas and Nashville, being sent home because of 9 and 10 cases of COVID-19 on each team. They had a few false positives that kind of caused some delays in the games. But you know what? It started to roll, and it has gone rolling. So they just finished up the round of 16. They're on to the quarterfinals. So let's give it a bit of a recap here. So in the round of 16, the Philadelphia Union defeated the New England Revolution 1-0. The Sporting Kansas City beat the Vancouver Whitecaps 0-0, but 3-1 on penalties. New York City FC unfortunately just destroyed Toronto FC. They beat them 3-1, but it could have been a heck of a lot worse. I don't know what happened to TFC, but they played just like they were a peewee team against men. Like, it was ridiculous how bad they played in that game. Portland Timbers, they defeated Cincinnati 1-1, but 5-3 on penalties. Orlando, the home team, as you call it, defeated the Montreal Impact 1-0. LAFC defeated the defending MLS Cup champions Seattle Sounders 4-1, which was huge. San Jose Earthquakes defeated Real Salt Lake 5-2. Now, Real Salt Lake also did drop down to 10 men in that game, so that's part of the reason, I would assume. I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but yeah, you drop down to 10 men, there's a pretty significant chance that you end up giving up at least a goal. Now, and the final one was Minnesota United versus Columbus. That ended 1-1 with 6-4 penalties in favor of Minnesota. So we have coming up this week the quarterfinals. The quarterfinals are Philadelphia Union versus Sporting Kansas City. That's on July 30th, so tomorrow at 8 p.m. July 31st, we have Orlando City SC versus LAFC at 7:30 p.m. We have New York City FC versus Portland Timbers at 8 p.m. on August 1st. And also on August 1st, the San Jose Earthquakes versus Minnesota United at 10:30. Those should all be really good matchups. It should be interesting to watch. Now, let's shift focus here. Let's go to the NHL. The NHL is officially back, people. Like, this is exciting. Obviously, the preseason or the exhibition games in the bubble are happening right now as we speak. So let's kind of break those down a bit. So starting yesterday, they had 3 games. Philadelphia played against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So the Flyers and Penguins, Battle of Pennsylvania, it did not disappoint. The Flyers won 3-2 in overtime. Like, it was a very exciting game to watch. The evening game was Toronto versus Montreal, the big rivalry, one of the best rivalries in hockey, and the Leafs ended up coming out on top 4-2. Now, the strange thing about that game was the Habs were the visiting team in Toronto's building because of the bubble system. So the Habs actually had their dressing room set up in the Leafs dressing room, and the Leafs actually sat on the visitors bench and in the visitors dressing room for the first time in like ever. So that was interesting. And then the nightcap last night was the Battle of Alberta. The Oilers defeated the Flames 4-1. Now today, the action in the exhibition games kicked off at noon. This has been awesome. I've been home today because of the day off work, and it's been amazing to be able to watch hockey all day. So we started off at noon, Tampa versus Florida, the Battle of Florida. Tampa did not disappoint. 5-0 win over the Panthers. Like, it was a trouncing. And then the next game happened, and it was Colorado versus Minnesota, and that was a 3-2 win by Colorado. That game was also insane to watch. I mean, some of the goals, like the one goal by Nathan McKinnon was just absolutely beautiful. And then you have Carolina, who played Washington. Washington comes out on top. Ovi had 2 goals and an assist. It was a 3-2 win. Ovi's definitely in midseason form. He's ready for the playoffs. This should be exciting. The last game was St. Louis versus Chicago, and surprisingly, Chicago just destroyed St. Louis 4-0. Like, that was exciting. Like, I mean, the St. Louis Blues are the defending Stanley Cup champions, so if you're trying to draw yourself into what kind of level you're at, that's a huge boost of confidence for the Chicago Blackhawks, who are coming into the Western Conference playoffs as a 12 seed. Now, currently, right now, we have the Islanders versus the Rangers, so the Battle of New York. It is currently 1-0 for the Islanders in the third period. And then the game that I'm most looking forward to for the exhibition games is at 10:30 tonight, Vancouver Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets. Let's go Jets. Let's do this. So tomorrow, there's 3 games on tap. Nashville versus Dallas at 4 p.m., and then at 7 p.m. you have Boston versus Columbus, and then you have Vegas versus Arizona at 10. That will finish off the exhibition season, whatever you want to call it, the exhibition games, and then they'll start for real with the qualifying round or the play-in series on Saturday. Saturday will be a full slate of games, again, similar to today. You have noon, the New York Rangers versus the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 1, Chicago versus Edmonton at 3 o'clock in Game 1, Game 1 of the Florida versus the Islanders series at 4, Montreal versus Pittsburgh at 8, and Winnipeg versus Calgary at 10:30. All those games should be very exciting, especially the way some of these teams have played in this exhibition game, like their exhibition games so far. It's just been exciting to be able to have hockey back, and weird also that hockey's going to be back in August for the first time ever. But, you know, you got to live and learn, especially with a quarantine of 4 to 5 months. It's kind of put a damper on things. So August 2nd is the rest of the round robin games, the qualifying games, which is Arizona versus Nashville at 2, Columbus versus Toronto at 8, and Minnesota versus Vancouver at 10:30. Now, also included in the qualifying round is a round robin tournament between the top 4 seeds in both conferences. These are Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, and Tampa in the East, and then you have St. Louis, Colorado, Dallas, and Vegas in the West. So they'll play a bit of a round-robin tournament against each other to figure out who's seeded 1 through 4. So the first game of that round-robin tournament is Philadelphia versus Boston at 3 o'clock on August 2nd, and St. Louis versus Colorado at 6:30 on August 2nd. And then Monday, August 3rd, will be Washington versus Tampa at 4 o'clock, and Dallas versus Vegas at 6:30. So that's kind of the first game of every round, every conference, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's going to be exciting to have hockey on for the next basically 3 months, because they expect the Stanley Cup to be handed out at the beginning of October, and then you follow up quickly with the NHL draft, the free agency, and then right back into the next season. I believe it's like December 1st is when puck drop is supposed to happen for the full season to start next year. Now, last but not least, let's go to the NBA. The NBA is back. They've played a few of their little scrimmage games, exhibition tournament, whatever you want to call it. The bubble actually officially starts on Thursday. So tomorrow is Utah versus New Orleans at 6:30, and the Battle of LA, the Clippers versus the Lakers at 9. So that will be a huge night for basketball fans, especially the Kawhi versus LeBron series of games. Like, that's going to be huge to see. And then obviously for myself and a lot of Canadian fans, the Raptors start August 1st. This will be huge. And it is Saturday, August 1st, 8:30 p.m., LeBron James and the Lakers versus Toronto Raptors. That's going to be an insane game, guys. The rest of the schedule for the Raptors is August 3rd at 1:30 p.m. versus Miami, August 5th at 8 p.m. versus Orlando. You have August 7th at 9 p.m. versus Boston, August 9th at 2 p.m. versus Memphis, August 10th at 6:30 p.m. versus Milwaukee, August 12th at 6:30 p.m. versus Philadelphia, and August 14th at 1 p.m. versus Denver. Now, these games are part of an 8-game play-in, basically, to figure out your seeding for the playoffs. The Raptors are currently seeded second in the East. They're 6.5 games back of first place Milwaukee, so there's not likely a chance that they're going to move up, but there is always the threat that if they do not play well, they could move down. They're currently 3 games up on third place Boston, so they have a bit of a cushion, so hopefully they'll just kind of stick it out in second. And if they end up the season, or this play-in round, whatever you want to call it, this exhibition round, in second place, the worst they can do is second place. They can play Milwaukee in the NBA or in the Eastern Conference Final if they both get there, which should be interesting considering us beating Milwaukee in the Eastern Final last year to get to the NBA championships. So it's going to be exciting. That series will start shortly after the 14th. I believe it's like the 16th or 17th they're starting the actual playoffs. So this is going to be an exciting couple months for sports fans, especially when you're not used to having basketball or hockey in August and September for that matter. Typically, you got to look at the end of September, beginning of October for the preseason of hockey, and then the preseason of basketball isn't until the beginning of October. So this is exciting. And be able to have some buddies over, watch a game, sit on a patio outside in 30-degree weather and watch a game on a big screen TV. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap this up, but if you like this video, please hit like. If you really like it, please subscribe, share with all your friends, leave a comment below and let me know what you think, who you're picking for the NHL bracket, who you're picking for the NBA bracket, and yeah, let's just have some fun this summer watching some sports, guys. Okay? Anyways, have a good night. Ciao.